Hello and welcome to another episode of the British English Podcast with your host Charlie, that's me, and this show, if you haven't heard, is all about teaching you British English whilst having some culture-led conversations, loosely speaking. And today we're going to be diving in to an unsolved mystery in Gross Britannia, in Great Britain, in the humble town of Bedford. There's been an unsolved mystery that we're going to hear about, and with me is Harry. Harry's going to be telling us about this mystery that we get to vote on. I'm going to create a poll on Spotify because I actually heard this story. Harry told me this, and I said it would be great to know what the verdict is across the world, whether you think it's option A or option B. And so I will create a poll on Spotify. If you go to this episode and you scroll down, you'll be able to see the poll and vote. So yes, at the end of this episode, please do that. So thank you, Harry, for taking the time to tell us about this unsolved mystery.
Pleasure.
So where do we start?
So going back probably 2 years now.
Right.
Came back from a holiday to find that my walking boots, or one of my walking boots, was absolutely soaked, sodden. It was absolutely soaked in something.
Soiled. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good choice of word. And it had quite a pungent smell to it as well. Ooh. And I was thinking, what has happened here? So I live in a building with 3 flats, and there's a communal hallway, right, in which I've got a shoe rack. On the second shelf of the shoe rack, I was keeping at the time my walking boots, and they're quite big boots. They're gaping. Gaping.
So they're quite wide.
Right.
There's plenty of room in there. My first theory was, maybe there's been a leak. Because the shoes kind of stick out from this shoe rack, and perhaps there's been a leak from the ceiling, right? Which coincidentally has ended up dripping continuously into my boot. Yeah. Because we had problems with leakage before. Okay. So I thought maybe that's the problem. I investigated that issue, came to the conclusion after further smells. Whiffs from the shoe had led me to believe that actually something or someone had urinated in my shoe. Oh. There was also... and
you're sure it wasn't you?
100% sure it wasn't me.
You didn't pee in your own shoe?
Didn't pee, no. When I went away, they were dry. They didn't smell of piss. Okay. There was definitely no urine in my shoe. Okay. But when I got back, there was a lot of it.
How long had you been away?
I don't remember where I'd been, but I think I'd been away for maybe 2 weeks, 10 days. Okay. Perhaps. It'd been a while. Right. And I'd missed my shoes. Right. I love these shoes.
Yeah, they're your walking boots.
They're my walking boots, and I walk most days. Yeah. Well, every day. But I...
Show off.
Yeah. I often go out to have a walk, and they're my choice of footwear. I mean, I wore them on my first date with Rosie.
Ah, sentimental.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was no piss in them by that point.
Hopefully not, yeah.
But that was the grand mystery. Who or what has pissed in my shoe?
And why?
Why would you do that?
Yeah. So what's your first thought after this point, after the leak?
So after, discounting or eliminating the leak.
And didn't you text somebody about the leak? Did you blame them on...
Yeah. So I kind of sent an angry text to the landlord of flat 2. So there are 3 flats. I'm in flat 1 on the ground floor. On the first floor, we've got flat 2. And that flat is owned by a landlord, and they've got tenants there. They've got people renting that out. Okay. So my first theory was, okay, there's been a leak from flat 2, and that leak has dripped dirty water into my shoe. But I text the landlord angrily because I had a go at him before about a leak in the hall. And I thought, okay, that's the issue. That is the issue. I looked up, I thought, okay, yeah, that could have ended up in my shoe. And it was kind of in line with it. I was like, okay, it could be that.
Yeah.
But then I picked up the shoe and I gave it a good old sniff. And it was definitely piss. And then the question is, who, what, why? That's 3 questions. My first question was who. So I started thinking, okay, well, surely no human would do this. But there are no animals in this building. We don't have any, especially not like a cat or a dog. There are none of those kind of animals. No one has pets.
Right.
So I thought, that's probably not a possibility.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of we. It couldn't be like a mouse or something.
As in, like when you picked up the boot, it dripped out?
It wasn't dripping, but it was soaked in there. Like I put my hand in there. I had to clean it and stuff. And so it took a lot of scrubbing to get the pissiness, if that's a word, out of that shoe. So flat 3, I've got to keep it down a bit because we are in that building at the moment. So flat 3, in flat 3 lives my neighbour George.
Right.
Who, I can't believe this is going online. So George is 76 years old.
Okay.
He enjoys a drink. He's quite a social guy. He goes out quite a lot. He lives alone. I believe he's separated but not divorced.
Okay.
And yeah, he likes to go out and have drinks. I also know that I've had a couple of run-ins with George.
Tell me what you mean.
Some small arguments about things or disagreements.
Can we hear about those?
Yeah. So me and George would interact occasionally about our communal bills. We have to pay for the hall light and things like that.
Yeah.
And when things break, sometimes we will pitch in together to get them fixed for the good of the building. But one day I was playing my bongos and I had loud music on.
What time?
Probably midday on a Saturday.
Because I have witnessed you in here, not to take George's side, but I have witnessed you get the bongos out past 10 p.m. and you felt free to tap on a bongo.
On occasion.
On occasion.
On occasion, yeah. If I was having drinks and it was a social occasion, I might be tempted to get them out.
Okay.
In the evening time.
Yeah.
But I tried to not do that too often.
Okay.
And otherwise, I would just practice in the daytime.
Sure.
Could be midweek, could be at the weekend.
Okay.
Which I thought is actually okay. I mean, you've got to practice these things.
You do.
If you're going to get any good.
Yeah.
And it's the middle of the day. So I try to be respectful. I can understand it might be annoying. But anyway, one day...
You're very good. It's interesting to hear. If it's a bad bongo player, I'd be annoyed. But you've got good rhythm. So I'd be like, wow, it's good background music.
Thanks, Chaz. Yeah, he didn't agree with that. He didn't feel that way. So anyway, one day he emailed me.
He emailed you?
He emailed me.
Right, okay.
Yeah, which is quite...
Formal,
yeah. And he said... I can't remember exactly what he said. Something like, do me a favour and turn that bloody music down.
Oh, that's a shame. Don't use bloody.
Something like that.
Then
he said, I think he ended it with, there's a good boy.
Oh.
George.
There's a good boy, George.
Yeah, boy George. There's a good boy, George. And so from then on, started there was a little bit of bad blood between us. Flash forward a few years.
Right.
I'm still playing the bongos. In fact, I'd graduated to the congas, which are bigger drums. And I would practice them every so often too. And so occasionally the fire brigade will go around blocks of flats to investigate, to just survey the hallways.
For bongo noise?
Not for bongo noise, but to make sure that they are safe for, escape in the event of a fire.
Good. So
they did that. They came round our block of flats and they said, yeah, everything seems fine. This is from George's words. He said this to me. I wasn't there when the fire brigade paid us a visit. Mm-hmm. he said that the one thing they had a problem with was my shoe rack,
Oh,
which is in the hallway.
yeah. And there are other things in the hallway, aren't there?
There are.
Yeah.
There are 3 bicycles.
Which I felt as soon as I walked in, they were the most prominent. Yours is more tucked against your door, not, you can still open your door fine, but it's more the bikes that are in the way, I'd say.
And that's a hazard. It's not a fire hazard as such in that they're not going to catch a light.
Oh, is that the point? The shoe rack is flammable.
I imagine so.
Maybe that's why he pissed in it, to make it less flammable.
Perhaps. Maybe he was actually putting out a fire. So he said to me, he strongly implied that I should get rid of said shoe rack.
Yeah.
But I said, well, what did they say about the bicycles? Because they're bigger. I even think the shoe racks are synthetic wood. It's probably not flammable. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, he wasn't very happy about that, and I decided to keep it. I kept the shoe rack.
Okay. Did you say, I'm going to keep it?
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah, or I just didn't talk about it again. I think I just said I'm going to keep it. Yeah, I think I just said I'm going to keep it. So anyway, maybe 6 months after that, that uncomfortable conversation, I come back from my holiday to find my piss-soaked shoe. So my theory is, one possible theory is that he came back late, drunk, because he likes a drink, and he gets very drunk. And he saw my shoe on the second shelf of the shoe rack. It's a gaping shoe.
And you said it's quite a good height for some phallic-shaped item.
It's perfect. It's perfect. You probably wouldn't put your willy inside it, but you would. It's a good thing to aim for. Easy to get it in there. And it even looks a bit like a urinal. Because like I said, it is gaping.
You do have very big feet, so...
Yeah. And it's a big opening. So yeah, I was thinking maybe come back. He was caught short. He needed a wee, and he decided to relieve himself in my shoe.
So when you told me this the first time, I was on the fence until you told me the next piece of evidence about your garden party.
Yeah. So there is evidence to suggest that George doesn't mind peeing in unusual places. So during the lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown, we would do communal gatherings in our hallway, in our block. Mm-hmm. We'd have a couple of drinks.
Yeah, nice and legal.
Yeah. And I think George, one evening, we'd had a few drinks. He needed a wee. He didn't want to climb 2 flights of stairs to his flat. He didn't want to use my toilet for some reason. And he decided to go and wee in the garden, in the front garden, which is just out on the street.
Yeah, it's very exposed.
Very. Yeah. Which to me suggests that he's willing to pee in unorthodox places.
Yes.
Unsuitable places.
Yes. Yeah, that brought me back to thinking it's George. Boy George is the culprit. But then you've got another theory, and this was brought to you by George.
It was brought to me by George, which is convenient. So,
yeah, it is, isn't it?
So I got back from holiday. I arrived at the conclusion that he probably weed in my shoe. I was convinced of it.
Were you about to confront him? Did you try to?
I don't think I was ever going to confront him.
Okay.
I think me and my friend Rob were kind of toying with the idea of trying to do some kind of DNA test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but we never got round to it. But so I think I bumped into him the day after discovering the piss-soaked shoe.
You'd have to get a bit of his hair or something, wouldn't you?
I know, yeah.
Did you think about this?
We were thinking about it, yeah.
And what would you do if you got proven right?
I'd have to piss on his car.
I'd have to.
Yeah.
I'd have to piss on something of his.
Yeah, that's the only...
Eye for an eye.
I'm not going to talk to him about it. I'm just
That'd be
gonna
far too non-British.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do the decent thing and leave him a pint of piss.
Pee on his bonnet.
Pee on his bonnet.
No, poo on his bonnet. Yeah.
Poo, yes, better.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that's hard to clean off. I'll
Yeah.
smear it all over there.
Oh,
Put some in the exhaust.
no.
Anyway, so I bump into him and I'm looking quite suspicious at him. You know, I'm thinking, this guy probably pissed in my shoe. And it was still, this piss-soaked boot of mine was still waiting on the shoe rack, waiting to be cleaned. Because I hadn't got around to cleaning it yet. Because it's an unpleasant job, scrubbing someone
I'd put that
else's
off.
piss from your shoe. So I bumped into him. And the first thing he says to me is, "You'll never guess what I saw the other day when I came down, when I was leaving the flat."
What?
And I was like, "Wow, what could it be?" He was like, "A little kitten
A little kitten.
just came running out of the building behind me." So obviously it had spent the night
Yeah.
in the hallway
With a full bladder.
with a full bladder, the perfect alibi. And I was like, oh, really? It made sense. Why not? Why not a cat?
Yeah.
A kitten especially, could fit in my gaping boot. If it was cold and trapped in a hallway after wandering in off the street, then maybe it would seek refuge in a boot. What better to keep warm in than a boot?
I mean, if I'm a kitten, I'm going straight for your big shoes.
Exactly. And there was only piss in one boot, which suggests to me that he pissed in one boot, then slept in the other. Because you don't piss in your own bed, do you?
No. Okay.
And it made sense, but to me it was him overcompensating. You know, maybe he was coming up with his alibi.
Well, scapegoat, maybe? Because alibi it would be like where he was at the time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's not an alibi. It's scapegoat. Yeah.
So maybe he needs to come up with an alibi as well. Like when you were away, I was in Scotland.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
But so I'd like everyone to have a little think about whether they think it was option A, George, option B, the kitten that peed in your shoe.
I should probably add that we do have some kittens that live around here.
Okay.
And they will find themselves, they often come in our front garden. They like to wander around.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do a poo there. So they know the house.
Okay.
There are kittens around that like to hang out here. So there is a possibility that one might wander in if the front door is left open.
Yeah.
And then find themselves locked in.
What would you prefer to be the outcome?
I'd like to believe that my neighbour didn't piss in my shoe. So I'd rather it were a cat.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it feels very malicious to piss in someone's shoe. It's a horrible thing to do.
It is horrible.
It kind of makes me a bit sick, but it is funny. And I do, it's part of me that likes not knowing. And the fact that I'm probably never going to know. But I think that's why we need to take this to a trial. We need the jury's verdict on this.
We do.
So I'm going to take the jury's verdict as definite.
Right. Okay. So power to the people.
Power to the people.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they say.
Very. Yeah. The evidence has been presented.
What would your gut reaction be if you had to guess who it was? I think there probably is a kitten. I mean, you've confirmed. So a kitten probably did come in, and that's probably true what he said. But I think he probably pissed in the shoe. Mm. I think he might have even forgotten that he pissed in your shoe. He was that drunk.
Do you reckon?
He may have even forgotten.
He probably has a slight memory of it. Otherwise, why would you bother coming up with that little lie?
Well, I think that might just be innocent.
The cat did come in, but
Yeah,
he had also pissed in my shoe.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no. In all my years, I've lived here for 8 years. That's never happened. I've never seen a kitten wander in.
But you said that they do.
They come in the front garden.
Yeah. I think that's
They
possible.
never wander. Yeah, it's possible, but it's not a very inviting hallway. You wouldn't want to hang out in there.
Mm.
And also, I find it unlikely that you would not notice a kitten in there and shut the door behind them. But
yeah. But there we go. So that was the unsolved mystery of the humble town of Bedford. Thank you very much, Harry, for letting us know of this mystery, and I will let you know the verdict.
yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So yeah, go and vote. But thank you for listening to the end of this episode of the British English podcast. Bye-bye, Harry.
Bye-bye.